Hello friends, in this video we will learn how to solve transportation problem using UV method or an MODI method. It is a special kind of transportation problem. In the previous transportations problems, we were only intending to identify the initial basic solution for the given balanced transportation problem, and the methods that we used to identify the initial basic feasible solutions were northwest corner cell method, least cost cell method, or VAM, which is nothing but Vogel's approximation method. Using any of these three methods, we were successful in identifying the initial basic solution. Now, after applying UV method, we would be able to identify the optimal solution for the given problem, given balanced transportation problem. So let us proceed with the problem. This is the given problem for which we would be finding out in the first phase the initial basic feasible solution, and in the second phase we will be finding out the optimal solutions. So similarly, this is the given problem for which we will be working out in two phases. This is the given problem for which we have to go for two phases, wherein the first phase we will find out the initial basic feasible solution, and in the second phase we will find out the optimal solutions. To start off with the first phase, first, before you start going up with the first phase, first identify if the given transportation problem is a balanced transportation problem. How do we do it? Sum of supply should be equal to sum of demand. The sum of supply 5 plus 8 plus 7 plus 14 will give me 34. Similarly, the sum of demand 7 plus 9 plus 18 will also give me 34, which indicates that the given problem is a balanced transportation problem. We can apply, the first step is to find out the initial basic feasible solution. So we can apply any of these methods to identify the initial basic feasible solution. Now I will be applying Vogel's approximation method to find out the initial basic feasible solution for the given problem. To start up with the first step, we have to go find out the row difference and column difference. And for the first row, the difference is first list value is 2, second list value is 4, so the difference will remain 2. And amongst the second row, first list value is 3, and there is one more occurrences of 3 present in the given problem. So what I'll do, I'll just consider these two to be the two list values in the row, and I will come up with the difference, which is nothing but 0. In the third row, the first list value is 1 and the second list value is 4. So the difference will turn out to be 3. Now in the fourth row, the first list value is 1 and the second list value is 2. So the difference will be 1. Following the same steps for the column. The first list value in column number 1 is 1 and the second list value is 2, where the difference will be 1. And in the column number 2, the first list value is 3 and the second list value is 4, which gives me a difference of 1. Coming up with the third column, the first list value is 1, second list value is 2, where I find out the difference to be 1. So this is the column difference and row difference for first iteration of Vogel's approximation method. Amongst these difference, identify the largest value. The largest value here is 3. So I will just encounter that. Now this 3 is a difference from row number 3. So I will have to identify, I will have to check only for row number 3 now. Amongst row number 3, which is the least value? It's 1. What is the demand for 1? 18. And what's the supply? It is 7. So what I do? I will satisfy the supply. I will finish the supply and I'm still left out with 8. I'm left out with 11. Now the demand was 18 and the supply was 7. So I satisfied 7 supply, where I'm left out with only 11 demand still, and the supply has gone 0. So I will just strike out all this row. Now After the first iteration, row number 3 has been striked out. So go for the second iteration, find out the row difference and column difference. First row remains same, there are no changes in the first row. The difference here will be 2 and 4. So 4 minus 2 will be 2 for me. In the second row, once again we come up with the same value, two values which will make up to be 0. Third row has been striked out, so I'll just mark a hyphen. And fourth row difference will still remain the 1. 2 minus 1 will give me 1. And column number 1, it remains same. In column number 1, the row number 3 has been striked out, but still first list value is 1, second list value is 2, so the difference will remain 1. And in column number 2, the first list value is 3. Since this third row has been striked out, the second list value will be 6. So 6 minus 3 will give me 3. And now in the column number 3, where again the row number 3 has been striked out, the first least value will be 2 and the second least value is 4. So 4 minus 2 will give me a difference of 2. So now amongst this column difference and row difference, identify the largest value. The largest value is 3. Now this 3 is a difference in column number 2. Now after excluding the third row in column number 2, identify the least value. The least value will be 3. What is the demand here for column 2? 9. And the supply here is 8. I will just satisfy the demand by only 8 values and I am left out with 1. This will get striked out and all the rows will be striked out. So after 2 iterations, row number 2 and row number 3 has been striked out. Now go for the third iteration. Third iteration, once again in the first row, find out the row difference. That is nothing but 2. 4 minus 2 will give me 2. Row number 2 has been striked out, so I'll mark a hyphen. Row number 3 has also been striked out in first iteration, so I'll mark a hyphen. Go for row number 4, where the first list value is 1 and the second list value is 2 and the difference will be 1. Coming back to the column, in column number 1, row number 2 and row number 3 has been striked out, so I'm only left out with 2 values. So the difference here will be 1. 2 minus 1 will be 1. And similarly, even in second column, row number 2 and row number 3 has been striked out, so I'm only left out with 2 values, 7 and 6. 7 minus 6 will give me 1. Similarly, in column number 3, 4 minus 2 will give me 2. Amongst all these values, I find that 2 is the largest value. And 2 has been occurred twice, once in column difference and once also in row difference. So what I will do, I will just encounter this 2. This 2 is a difference in column number 3. Now amongst this column number 3, where I have only 2 values of 4 and 2, identify the least value. That is nothing but 2. What is the demand here? 11 and the supply here is 14. So I will just satisfy the demand and I will convert this to be 0 and this will be 3. Now, since this demand has been satisfied, I'll also strike out this. Now, I'm only left out with row number 1. Even this, since the demand has been met, the whole column will be striked out. So now I'm left out with row number 1 and row number 4. So with these cell values, what I have to do now, find out the differences in the row. Since I have it's a square matrix, 2 rows and 2 columns, I still have an opportunity to find out the differences. So 2 minus 7, that will be 5 minus 2 and 6 minus 1 will give me 5. Once again here, 7 minus 6 will be 1 and again 2 minus 1 will be 1 for me. So now, which is the largest value in the new difference now? 5 is the largest value. I will arbitrarily be choosing this 5 value, which is nothing but the difference in the last row. So amongst these two values, find out the least value. That is nothing but 1, where the demand is 7 and the supply is 3. What I will just satisfy the demand by 3 and I will carry 4. And this supply will be 0, so all this row will be striked out. I am only now left out with these two values. So the difference here will be 5. This will be, since there are no values in column number 2, I'm only left out with 2. I'll just bring down to 2 as it is. Similarly, in column number 2 also, I don't have any other values in column number 2. I have only 7, so I'll just bring back this value as it is, bring down the value as it is. Now, amongst this 7, 2 and 5, identify the largest value. The largest value is 7, which is nothing but the value in column number 2, and there's only one cell, so I'll just have to go for 7, where the demand is 1 and the supply is 5. So I will just satisfy the demand. And here I am left out with 4. Now finally I am only left out with the one cell, that is nothing but 2, where the demand is 4 and the supply is also 4. So I will satisfy the demand and supply subsequently. Now with this we conclude that we have achieved initial basic feasible solution. Now the next step is to first check if the problem after completing its first phase is eligible to go for the second phase. What is the way how you could check if it is eligible to go for the second phase? There is a formula. M plus N minus 1 should be equal to number of allocations. Now what is M? M are nothing but the number of rows. And what is N? N is nothing but the number of columns. So what are the number of rows I have? 4. And the number of columns are 3 minus 1. And what are the number of allocations I have made? Allocations are nothing but these: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So I have 6. 4 plus 3, 7. 7 minus 1 will give me 6, which is equals to 6. So now this indicates that now the given problem is eligible to go for phase 2, where I'll be finding out the optimal solution using modified distribution method or a U and a V method. Now what are U and V? V are nothing but the columns. It's V1, V2 and V3. And U are nothing but the rows: U1, U2 and U3. Okay, how do you find out the values for these U and V? We have to go for a method formula, that is Ui plus Vj is equals to Cij. Okay, Ui is nothing but U1, U2 and U3. The I for the value, the I carries the values 1, 2 and 3 for U, and J carries the values U4 and V carries values 1, 2 and 3. Now start applying this formula. Initially I will start with U1. First I will identify that U1 is 0. For the first step, for the first instance, I will just make sure that U1 is considered to be 0. Now U1 plus V1 should be equal to Cij. Now Cij is nothing but the cell values, and you would be able to find out the values for U and V only for the allocated cell. Only amongst the allocated cells you would be eligible to identify the values of U and V for that particular row and column. Now since this is an allocated cell and I have U1 also been allocated 0, and this is the Cij value for C11 value for U1 plus V1 is equals to C11, where U1 value of U1 is 0 plus V1 is, we don't know what is the value of V1, and C11 is nothing but 2. How do I get an answer to what should I add for 0 to come up with the sum 2? I will have to add 2. So now 0 plus 2 will give me 2. The value of V1 will be 2. Similarly, I now found out V1. Now with this help of V1, I would be able to find out a value for U4, because there is one more allocation in the same column. This column has found out a value for V1. With this help, we would be able to check if there are any more allocations in the same column, so that it will help us to find out the values of a row. Now there is one more allocation. Value of V is 2, and we don't know what is the value of U, but Cij for this will be 1. What is the value? U4 we don't know. V1 is 2. And what should be the Cij, that is U41, that should be 1. So what should I add for 2, or what should I add or subtract for 2 to come up with -1? -1 is the value. -1 plus 2 will give me 1. So the value here is -1. Now we found out the value of U4. With help of this, I would be able to check if there are any more allocations made in the same row so that I can find out the value for the next column. I now find out that in the same row, the third column has got an allocations. So now the value for U4 is -1. Now what should I add for V3 to come up with the value 2? What should I add? +3. -1 plus 3 will give me 2. So it is 3. Now I found out the value of U1, V3, V1, V3, U1 and U4. With help of this, now I found the value of U1 for this row, and I would also be able to find out the value for V2, which is nothing but 7. What is that? We know the value of U1 is 0. We don't know what is the value of C12. We know the value of C12, which is nothing but 7. We don't know what is the value of V2. So what should we add for 0 to come up with 7? We should add a 7. With help of this U1, I found a value U2 also now. I am now only left out with U2 and U3 values. Since U3 can be found, U3, this row has got an allocation, one and only one allocation, and that is in column number 2. For column number 2, I have a value 7. With help of this, I would be able to find out a value for U2. We don't know what is the value of U2, but we know what is the value of V2, that is 7, and C2 should be 3. What should you add for 7 to come up with 3? It should be -4. -4 plus 7 will give you 3. So the answer for U2 is -4. Now you have found out U1, U2 and U4, V1, V2 and V3. The values for all the columns are there available. Only for row 3 we are waiting for the value. So how do we find out? Check if in this row there is any allocations made. Yes, the last column in U3 has been made. That is nothing but in row number 3, column number 3, there is an allocation made, and this column also has got a value of 3. Now we know what is the value of V3. We don't know what is the value of U3. We also have a value of C33. What is that? We don't know what is the value of U3, but the value of V3 is 3. And value of C33 should be 1. So what is the value you will add to come up with the answer 1? What should you add for 2 to come up with 1? It should be -2. So the answer for U3 is -2. This is the way how you can find out the values for U and V. Now the next step is to find out the penalty. How do you find out the penalty? There is a formula. Pij is equals to Ui plus Vj minus Cij. So what are the penalties? Now there is a question that rises up. How do you have to find out a penalty, and what should you make use to find out the penalty? To find out the values of U and V, we made use of all the allocated cells. Those 6 cells we made use of. Now to find out the penalty, we will make use of all the unallocated cells. How many unallocated cells I have in row number 1? There's only 1. And in row number 2, I have 2. Row number 3, 2 unallocated cells. And in row number 4, I have only 1 unallocated cell. So this is the way how we make use of even unstriked cells. Now you have to first write out this penalty of first row, third column, that is 1, 3. Penalty of second row, first column, that is 2, 1. Penalty of second row, third column, 2, 3. Penalty of third row and first column. Penalty of third row, second column. Penalty of fourth row, second column. Now start applying this formula for the values in the unallocated cells. We know the values for U and V for each row and each column respectively. So with that help we would be able to identify the penalties. Now we have noted down all the cells for which we have to find out the penalties. So to start up with, we can make use of U and V since we have the values of all the rows for all U's and for values for all the V's in the column. We would be able to find out the penalties. Now I'll have to find out for P 1, 3 means first row, third column. What is the U1 there? It is 0. And what is V3? 3. Minus Cij is nothing but this value. What is the value? 4. And this will give me a minus 1. Now to start off with the second row, first column, which is an unallocated cell, and the row value for this is minus 4. And the column value for that is plus 2. The Cij value here is 3. Cij is nothing but the cell value, that is nothing but 3. This will give me an answer of minus 5. Now second row, third column. The value for the second row is minus 4. Plus the value for the column number 3 is 3. Minus 4 plus 3 and minus the Cij value here is 7. Bring down the 7. This should give you an answer of minus 8. Now to start up with the third row. Third row, first column is also an unallocated cell. What is the row value for third? Minus 2. Plus, what is the column value here? For this cell, the column will be V1 and the value here is 2. That is 2 minus the Cij value is nothing but 5. Answer will be minus 5. Similarly, for P32. 32 means third row, second column. The value for third row is minus 2. And the value for the second column is plus 7. And the Cij value here is 4. This will give me a positive 1. And now I'm only left out with one cell, that is the fourth row, second column. The fourth row value is minus 1. And the second column value is 7. And the cell value is 6. This will give me a value of 0. After finding out the penalties, first check the values in the penalty should be either 0 or less than 0. If in case you come across any value in the penalty which is greater than 0, then you will have to go for the second iteration. Now amongst this, I find all to be in the negative value, and there is one 0 and there is only one positive value. We know that the penalty should be either 0 or less than 0. If we get more than 0 or if we get a positive value, then we have to go for the second iteration. In this penalty, I find one and only one positive value, that is 1. So where is this one where is the 1 encountered in? It is encountered in row number 3, column number 2. That is row number 3 and column number 2. So this is the new allocated cell. So how do? We will have to now draw a loop to find out the new allocation. Please pay attention. This is the newly allocated cell. So now with help of this cell, we will have to find out a loop to find out the new allocations. How do we do it? We will have to draw a horizontal or a vertical line that leads up to the allocated cell. Means I can either now move towards left side or right side or upwards or downwards. How do I move? The movement has also a particular rule. You will have to move towards a way where there is an allocated cell and you can take a turn on the allocated cell. Now, for example, if I take towards left, I will not have to I will not get an opportunity to take a turn. Why? Because 5 is not an allocated cell, so I will not be eligible to take a turn. So what I will do? I will just take towards my right, towards the right of 4, which has got an allocation, and from here I will bring it down where there is one more allocation. From here I will just go towards the left side where there is one more allocation. From here I will just go upwards where there is one more allocation, and then move towards the right where there is one more allocation and come down here. This completes the loop now. This was your starting point. So from the starting point we will just go on assigning signs. The starting point will have a plus sign. Alternatively, the next point will have a negative sign. Alternatively, the next cell will have a positive sign. Alternatively, the next thing will have a negative sign. Now this will have a plus symbol. This will have a minus symbol. Now what you have to do is, amongst all the cells that is into a loop, identify the allocations and identify the least allocation. Now what are the cells that are there encountered in the loop? That's 4, 1, 2, 6, 1, 2 and 7. So these are the cells that have been encountered in the loop. So amongst these, identify the allocations which is got the least number. Allocations least value here is 1 for me. So what I'll do, take this 1 and I will have to go on performing the operation that is given for a particular cell, mathematical operation for the given cell. For example, now for 1, I have a plus symbol here because it was the starting point. I had to mark a plus symbol here. It indicates that I have to add this 1 allocation here. I will make an allocation 1. This has got an allocation of 7 and it has got a negative symbol. So this will be 6. Now, after assigning the mathematical operations plus and minus for all the allocated cells which were formed in a loop, which formed a loop for the given problem, we will start performing the operations. Amongst this allocations in the loop, allocated cells in the loop, identify the cell value that has got the least allocation. Now this allocation is 7, here it is 11, it is 3, 4 and 1. So 1 is nothing but the least allocation that we found. So find it out. We will have to find out a matrix with new allocation. I'm writing down the same matrix. This was the starting cell and it had a plus operation with no allocation, so it was 0. When I add a 1, it will give me a 1. So this one will be allocated here. And here it is a negative symbol here, and the allocation value for this cell is 7. So 7 minus 1 will give me 6. Now for this cell I have an addition operation being allotted, and this allocation value here is 11. So 11 plus 1 will give me 12. Now going for the next cell where I have subtraction operation being allotted, and the allocation value here is 3. So 3 minus 1 will give me 2. Going back to this cell where I have an addition operations being allotted, and the allocated value here is 4. So 4 plus 1 will give me a 5. So going back to this cell, since it has got a subtraction operation being allocated and the allocation value here is 1, so we have to perform a subtraction operation. 1 minus 1 will give me a 0. So there is a 0 allocation. It indicates that the allocation has been removed, or there is no more allocation. This allocation I'll just write as it is. Right, even here after the new after finding out the new allocated cell, we have again 6 allocations being made. Once again check if this is eligible to go for the optimum solution. M plus n minus 1 is equals to number of allocations. How do we check? Number of rows are nothing but 4, number of columns are 3, minus 1 is equals to how many allocations? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So allocations are 6. 4 plus 3 will be 7. 7 minus 1 will give me 6 is equals to 6. So now after new allocation, now I find out that the step or the matrix is eligible to go for the next step, that is optimization step. Similarly, we have to find out the values of u and v here. v1, v2, v3, u1, u2, u3, u4. What is the formula we'll be applying? ui plus vj is equals to cij. To find out the values for all these u's and v's, we apply this formula. What is the value? Now I'll start off with u1. For the first instance, I will assume the value of u1 to be 0. Now to find, since I don't have values for any of these either u or a v, I'll have to start up with 1. I can either assign a value 0 for v1 or u1, but it is a best practice you assign a value 0 for u1. Start up with u1. So u1 is given a value 0. So apply this formula for this. What is the value of u1 here? It is 0. We don't know what is the value of v1. But we know what is the value of C11, which is nothing but 2. So what should I add for 0 to get a sum of 2? I should add 2. This indicates that the value of V1 is 2. I found the value of V1 and U1. With help of this, we will be able to find out the values for rest of the U's and V's. Now, in the same column, I have a value, I have a cell which has got an allocation, that is nothing but U4, the 4th row. So I know what is the value of V. I don't know what is the value of U. I know the value of V is 2 and the value of Cij is 1. Now what should I add for 2 to come up with the sum of 1? I should add minus 1. So now the value of U4 is minus 1. Similarly, go check in the same row if there are any more allocations to make your job easier, so that you will come up with a value for either a U or a V next. See, this row has got one more allocation, that is in the 4th column, and the 4th column has got the value for the row but not for the column. So I know what is U here. U is minus 1. I don't know what is the value of V, but I know that Cij is nothing but 2 here. So what should I add for minus 1 so that I come up with an answer 2? That is 3. 3 minus 1 will give me a 2. So the answer here is 3. Now I found out value of V1, V3, U1 and U4. Now with help of these, I would be able to find out the value again for U3. Now U3 has got 2 allocations here. You can check for any of one. Now I don't know what is the value of U3. Now if I have to check with this allocated cell, then I don't know what is the value of U3 and I also don't know what is the value of U2. With this I cannot proceed further. So what I do, I will just check with this cell. Yes, this cell has got a column being given a value. So what I'll do, I'll just consider this row, which is the third row, where I don't know what is the value of U, but I know the value of V is 3 and Cij is 1. So what should I add for 3 to come up with 1? I should add minus 2. It's a minus 2. So the value of U3 is minus 2. Now we found value V1, V3, U1, U3 and U4. With the help of this, I will be able to find out the value for V2. Value of U3 is minus 2. I don't know what is the value of V2, but Cij for this, that is nothing but U3, 2 is nothing but 4 for me. Now what should I add for minus 2 to come up with 4? It's a 6. 6 minus 2 plus 6 will give me a value of 4. So the value here is 6. With help of this, I will now be able to find out the value for U2. We don't know what is the value of U2, but we know what's the value of V2, that is 6, and C2, 2 is nothing but 3. Now what should I add for 3 to come up with an answer 3? It is minus 3. Minus 3 plus 6 will give me a 3. So the value here is minus 3. We would make use of all the allocated cells to find out the values of U and V. Now we will have to find out the penalty. There is one more formula for penalty. P of Ij is equals to Ui plus Vj minus Cij. I will make use of all unallocated cells to find out the values of penalty for the given matrix. For the given matrix, we will find out the penalty only for an unallocated cell. So now what are the unallocated cells I have? In the first row, I have first row, second column, first row, third column. So it is P12, P13, and in the second row I have P21 and P23. In the third row I have P31, P32 is also been allocated, P33 is also been allocated. So now I am left out with P4. P41 has been allocated, so P42, fourth row, second column. This is the only unallocated cell in the fourth row. So these are the cells for which you will have to find out the penalties. Start applying this value. Since we know the values of U and V, with help of all the allocated cells, we would be able to find out the values, penalty values for all the unallocated cells. For P1 and 2, that is for this cell. What is the row value for this cell? It is 0. The column value for this cell is 6. And the cell value is nothing but minus 7. That is minus 7. Cij is nothing but this value. Cij is nothing but this. Ui, Vj and Cij. So the answer will be minus 1. Now go for the next cell, which is this. The row value for this cell is 0. Column value is 3 and the cell value is 4. So the answer will be minus 1. Now go for this cell. What is the row value for this cell? Minus 3. And the column value for this cell is plus 2. And the cell value is 3. So this will give me a value of minus 4. Now go for the next cell, which is second row, third column. The row value for this is minus 3. Column value for this cell is 3. And the cell value here is 7. So this will give me a minus 7 answer. Now go for the third row, first cell. What is the row value for this cell? Minus 2. And the column value for this is 2. The cell value is 5. This will give me an answer of minus 5. Now coming up with the last cell. What is the row value for this cell? Minus 1. And the column value for this cell is 6. Cell value is 6. This will give me a minus 1. Now amongst these penalties, check if there is any number that is greater than 0. You should always have a 0 or a less than 0 value in the penalties. Now with this new penalty, we conclude that there are no positive symbols. There are no values that are greater than 0. So this indicates that the problem has achieved its optimal solution. So how do you summarize this? The total transportation cost. This is the optimized cost. Now 2 multiplied by 5. 3 multiplied by 8. 4 multiplied by 1. 6 multiplied by 1. 1 multiplied by 2. 2 multiplied by 12. The total sum is 70. So 70 rupees is the transportation cost for the given problem. This is how we apply Vogel's approximation method to find out the initial basic feasible solution, and then we apply a modified distribution method or a UV method. Now let me explain you what do you mean by UV. UV are nothing but the rows and columns. It's a row column method, or they don't give you in that sense, in the question paper during your exams, they'll only ask you to solve the problem to find out the optimal solution for a given transportation problem using UV method or MODI, which is nothing but modified distribution method. And this is the way how you solve it. Thank you.